I want you to picture a scenario. It is, let's say, 4:00 p.m. on a Friday. You are staring at your monitor. You have just pushed a massive update to the repository, and you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. You know what I'm talking about.
The Friday fear.
Exactly, the Friday fear. It's that sinking realization that the system you are working on has become so complex, so massive and interconnected that you personally don't actually understand it anymore.
Right.
You are just crossing your fingers and hoping the tests pass, but deep down, you know you are rolling the dice.
That is a universal experience. In the engineering world, we actually have a name for that moment. We call it hitting the wall.
The wall.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if you're a scrappy startup of 3 people, hacking in a garage, or a massive enterprise with 10,000 engineers. Eventually, every single organization hits the wall.
And that's the point where
Oh, wait.
your speed outpaces your understanding.
It's the exact moment where the speed of your development outpaces the coherence of your system.
Right. It's when you're moving so fast that things start breaking. Not because the code is bad, but because the architecture holding it all together is just, well, chaos.
It's entropy. And usually when companies hit this wall, they treat it as a personnel problem. They say, we need smarter engineers or we need to be more disciplined.
Yeah.
But the source material we are deep diving into today, Cosmos v16.0, takes a completely different stance. It says that failure isn't a human mistake, it is an architectural choice.
Which is a heavy concept to start with. You didn't fail, your architecture failed you.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are looking at Cosmos v16.0. And just to set the stage for you, this isn't just another Git wrapper. It's not just a fancy linter you plug into your editor.
No,
This bills itself as a production-grade operational framework.
correct. It's a total philosophical shift.
And it has a tagline that I honestly kind of love because of how, I don't know, arrogant it sounds. In the Cosmos, order is not found, it is engineered.
It's a line in the sand. They're saying that order doesn't just happen by accident. You don't stumble upon a stable system. You have to build the constraints that force it to be stable.
So the mission here is moving from human judgment
To mechanical compliance.
Yeah, exactly. Let's unpack that distinction because
Yeah,
I feel like my entire career has run on human judgment.
And that's the problem. Think about how we usually manage large code bases, these massive monorepos. We rely on best practices. We rely on code reviews.
You rely on a senior engineer named Bob remembering not to delete that one specific library.
We rely on willpower.
Precisely.
And willpower is a finite resource. Humans get tired. We get distracted. We forget things. We rationalize shortcuts because the product manager is breathing down our necks.
Yeah.
Cosmos is saying, stop relying on willpower. Replace it with constraints.
So we're moving from I hope this is safe to this is verifiably safe.
That is the core mission. And the way it does this is through a concept the documentation calls constraints as physics.
Constraints are not punishment, they are physics. I highlighted that line 3 times. It sounds cool, but what does it actually mean for a developer on a Tuesday morning?
Okay, think about gravity. Gravity is a constraint. It limits what you can do. You can't just jump over a building.
Right.
But because gravity is consistent, because it is immutable and never takes a day off, you can build a skyscraper that relies on it. You can engineer around it.
Okay, I follow that.
Cosmos attempts to bring that level of certainty to software development. Usually our rules are just guidelines. Please run the tests. Please don't commit to main.
And if you ignore them,
The system lets you do it anyway.
right, it's the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Cosmos flips that. It makes the correct thing the easiest thing and the incorrect thing physically impossible. It replaces guidelines with mechanical compliance guarantees.
Okay, I want to dig into those guarantees because the source material lists 7 of them, and they are fascinatingly specific. These aren't vague goals like be fast.
No, these are hard rules enforced by the code itself, specifically by the core system called C MOS.
Right, the compliance mechanized ordering system.
This is the immutable foundation.
So let's look at guarantee number 1, global total ordering. Now, for the non-distributed systems engineers listening, why is this such a big deal? Why do I care about ordering?
Okay, simple example. Imagine you and I are both writing to a ledger at the same time. You write transaction A. I write transaction B. Who went first?
Well, it depends on whose clock you look at. My clock or your clock?
Exactly. And in a distributed system, clocks drift. Timestamps are notoriously unreliable. If we don't agree on the order, we get race conditions. We get data corruption.
Okay.
Guarantee 1 says that every single event in the Cosmos ledger has a monotonically increasing sequence number.
Okay, you used a fancy word there. Monotonically increasing. Break that down for me.
It just means 1, 2, 3, 4. It never goes back and it never
So
skips.
no gaps.
No gaps, no duplicates. If you have event 50 and event 52, you know for a mathematical fact that you're missing event 51. It eliminates ambiguity.
Yeah.
You never have to guess what happened in what order.
Okay, that sounds foundational. But then we get to guarantee number 2, and this is where I stopped and went, whoa, wait a minute. This is the 50 meters deterministic finality.
The speed limit.
It says validation must complete in less than or equal to 50 milliseconds synchronously. And if it takes 51 milliseconds...
The operation fails.
Yeah.
Mechanically.
That seems incredibly harsh. I mean, 50 milliseconds is a blink of an eye. If I have a massive test suite, there's no way I'm running that in 50 meters. Is Cosmos telling me I can't run tests?
No, and this is a crucial distinction that people often miss. It's not saying your entire integration test suite runs in 50 meters.
Okay.
It's saying the validation of the graph and the compliance checks must run in 50 meters.
Explain the difference.
So let's say you change a configuration file. Cosmos needs to check. Is this valid JSON? Does it adhere to the schema? Does it conflict with any other service definitions? That check, the is this legal check, must be instant.
Well, why the hard limit, though? Why not 100 meters or a second?
Because friction is the enemy of safety. Think about your own habits. If a validation check takes 5 seconds, you wait. If it takes 10 seconds,
You check Twitter.
you check Twitter. If it takes a minute, you start looking for a flag to bypass it.
The skip checks flag. We've all done it.
Exactly. By enforcing a 50 meters hard limit, Cosmos forces the platform engineers to design validations that are lightweight and deterministic. It forces efficiency. If your validation is slow, you don't get to deploy. It aligns the incentives.
So it's forcing you to be efficient so that the developers never even feel the friction of safety.
Correct. Safety becomes invisible because it's instantaneous. Constraints are physics.
Then we have guarantee 3, immutable append-only evidence. This basically means you can't rewrite history, right? No more git push force.
Correct. You cannot mutate the past. The ledger creates a read-only history. Once an event is written, it is carved in stone.
Which is crucial for audits, which I want to get to later.
Well, just for sanity. You never have to wonder, did the state change underneath me? The past is fixed,
And that leads right into guarantee 7, auditor verifiable truth.
which is the ability to replay that entire immutable ledger to reconstruct the exact state of the system at any point in time. It's not just a log file. It's a recipe for reconstructing reality.
It's like a time machine for your code base.
In a way, yes. If production crashes on Tuesday, you can replay the tape to Monday night and see exactly what the world looked like, down to the byte.
That sounds incredibly powerful. But I want to pivot to how this actually runs, because the architecture here is, well, it's complex. The documentation talks about the 6 planes. We have the membrane, substance, substrate.
It sounds a bit like a biology textbook, doesn't it?
It does. The membrane.
It's a very structured way of thinking about the system. You have the membrane handling external integrations like GitHub or Slack. You have the substance doing real-time monitoring. But the real secret sauce, and frankly the part that is most controversial, is how it handles truth.
The cloud is truth architecture.
Right.
And this is where I think some listeners might get defensive, because we live in an era of local first. We love our local environments. But Cosmos says local validation happens.
Remember that 50 meters rule.
But the cloud is the ultimate authority.
Correct.
And the consequence of that, according to the docs, is offline commits are impossible.
That's right. If you are on a plane with no Wi-Fi, you cannot commit code to the ledger.
That feels limiting. Why handicap the developer like that? I mean, what if I'm on a long flight and I write the best code of my life?
You can write the code. You can save the files. You just can't commit to the shared reality.
But why?
Think about the alternative. If I let you commit offline and I let Bob commit offline, and you both change the state of the system in conflicting ways,
We have a merge conflict.
you have a divergence of truth, you have two competing realities, and when you both land and try to sync, who wins? Now we have to spend 3 hours untangling that mess.
The dreaded merge hell.
By forcing the commit to go to the cloud synchronously, Cosmos ensures that there is only ever one head of the snake. It enforces distributed consensus
So I trade the convenience of an offline commit.
for the guarantee that you never have to resolve a massive merge conflict ever again.
Okay, so you're saying I lose the ability to commit on a plane, but I gain a life where I don't have to spend Monday morning arguing with Git.
That is the trade-off.
Hmm.
And for large organizations, it is almost always worth it.
Speaking of keeping things straight, this brings us to relational reconciliation. The source mentions a three-way sync. What are we syncing here?
So in any engineering project, you have three versions of reality fighting each other. First, you have cosmos.json. That is your declared state.
Oh, right.
That's what you say you want the system to look like. I want 3 servers and a database.
Okay. The dream.
Second, you have the file system. The reality on the disk. Your cargo.tonalo, your package.json. That's what the code actually is.
The reality.
And third, you have the cloud. What is actually running in production right now.
And usually these three things hate each other.
They're constantly drifting apart. You update the code on the file system, but forget to update the manifest. Or you deploy something to the cloud manually, but never committed the config change.
So Cosmos runs a continuous loop.
A continuous 3-way reconciliation loop. It checks all 3 against each other.
And if they disagree?
It has conflict resolution strategies. There's last right wins, first right wins, automatic rebase, or the default, manual resolution. But the key is that it detects the drift immediately. It doesn't let you proceed until the 3 realities are aligned.
It's like a marriage counselor for your infrastructure.
Essentially, it forces the hard conversations before things get too messy.
I want to pivot to something that I think is just a brilliant naming convention and a really smart feature. The zombie problem.
Ah, yes. Tombstone management.
Tombstone management. It sounds morbid, but it solves a very specific headache. Walk us through the zombie scenario.
Okay, picture this. You have a team of 100 developers. You have a service, let's call it legacy auth. It's old, it's broken, everyone hates it.
A tale as old as time.
Finally, you get the approval to kill it, you delete legacy auth, you rip it out of the repo, you throw a party, it's gone.
Ideally, a day for celebration.
It should be. But someone else on the team, let's say Alice, have a feature branch she's been working on for 2 months. She hasn't pulled the latest changes. In her branch, legacy auth still exists.
Oh no. I see where this is going.
She finishes her feature, she merges her branch, and because Git is dumb, it's just looking at file diffs, it sees the files for legacy auth in her branch and thinks, oh look, new files, and it adds them back in.
It rises from the dead.
Exactly. It's a zombie service. And suddenly, your production environment is trying to spin up this dead service that shouldn't exist. It causes outages, confusion, and massive security risks.
So how does Cosmos stop the zombie apocalypse?
When you delete a service in Cosmos, it doesn't just delete the files. It creates a tombstone. It places a metadata marker in a specific directory. Cosmos tombstone backups.
It marks the grave.
It marks the grave. Now, if Alice tries to merge her old code that contains legacy auth, Cosmos scans the incoming change, checks the tombstone registry, and sees that legacy auth is legally dead.
And it blocks it.
It blocks the resurrection attempt.
It
says, I'm sorry, Alice, but this service has been tombstoned. You cannot re-add it without an explicit administrative override.
That is so smart. It's such a specific, painful problem that generic tools just ignore because they don't understand intent.
Exactly. Git sees files. Cosmos sees a lifecycle. It knows that deletion is a permanent state change, not just a file operation.
Now, you mentioned service and code, but we haven't talked about what languages we're dealing with. One of the big selling points here is that it's a polyglot framework.
That's right. It is language agnostic.
But usually when a tool says language agnostic, it means I don't understand any languages, so I'll just treat everything as text.
Correct. But Cosmos is smarter than that. It uses auto-discovery with ONN, complexity scanning.
Ooh, and complexity. For the self-taught devs, translate that.
It just means linear time. It scans through your project very fast, checking each file once. It doesn't get bogged down in deep nested dependencies.
And what is it looking for?
Clues, signatures. If it sees a cargo.toml file, it knows, aha, this is Rust, and it automatically knows to use cargo check for validation.
And if it sees package.json?
It knows it's Node.js and uses npm lint. It supports Go, Java with Maven, or Gradle, Python, Docker. And this is the one that caught my eye. Documentation files, like MD.
It treats documentation as a first-class service.
Yes, which is vital. Documentation should be versioned and validated just like code. If you break the docs, or if the docs reference code that no longer exists, you break the product.
So for you listening, this means you can dump Cosmos into a messy repo that has some Python scripts, a Go backend, and a React frontend, and it just figures it out.
Mostly, yes. It has that it just works factor. But for teams that want more control, there is the cosmos.json manifest. You can group projects, define custom types, or override the auto detection. But the default behavior is to meet the developer where they are.
Let's talk about the boring stuff, which, as we established, is actually the most important stuff for any company trying to not get sued or hacked. SOC2 compliance.
The boring release. That's a compliment in DevOps.
Yeah,
You want your releases to be boring. Excitement in release management usually means you broke something.
absolutely. So how does Cosmos help you pass an audit? Because usually that involves a frantic week of screenshotting logs and hoping nobody looks too closely.
Cosmos builds the audit trail into the physics of the system. Remember, Guarantee 3, immutable append-only evidence. Every write to the system generates a SHA-256 checksum.
So you can mathematically prove the log has not been tampered with?
Exactly. If someone manually edits the log file to cover their tracks, maybe they deleted a failed deploy, the checksums won't match. The system detects the integrity violation instantly.
But what if, and we've all been there, the system is blocking me, production is on fire, and I just need to bypass the validation to fix it? Does Cosmos just sit there and say, computer says no, while the company burns?
No. Cosmos is pragmatic. It knows emergencies happen. It allows you to bypass validation.
Oh, really? After all that talk about physics and constraints?
Yes, but, and here's the catch, it logs that bypass in a separate specific file. .cosmos.validation-bypasses.log.
The log of shame.
Essentially, it allows the bypass, but it ensures that the bypass is visible, attributable, and permanent. You can break the glass, but everyone will know you did it.
And that satisfies the auditor. They don't mind that you broke the rules as long as you documented that you broke the rules.
Exactly. SOC2 is about knowing who did what and when. Cosmos gives you that for free. It also uses specific trace IDs for everything.
I saw the format for that. It's like YYMMDDHHMMSS, then a random string.
Right. That allows you to correlate events across different machines. If a build fails on the cloud, you can trace that specific ID back to the local machine that triggered it. It connects the dots.
So we've got the 7 guarantees, the cloud is truth, the anti-zombie tombstones, and this rigorous audit trail. It feels like Cosmos v16.0 is trying to solve the people problem of engineering by, well, sort of removing the people from the critical path.
I wouldn't say removing them. I'd say it's about freeing them.
How so?
Think about how much mental energy you spend worrying. Did I deploy the right version? Did Bob check the config? Is the documentation up to date? That is cognitive load. That is brain power that isn't going towards solving the actual business problem.
That's fair. I spend half my day just checking if I break anything.
By handing all that anxiety over to a framework that guarantees mechanical compliance, you free up your brain to actually write code. You stop being a janitor for your own repository and start being an architect again.
The source material says Cosmos doesn't replace judgment, it amplifies it.
Precisely. It removes the noise so your judgment can focus on the signal.
So what does this all mean for you listening? If you're sitting there with a massive monorepo that feels like a house of cards.
It means you have a choice. You can keep hoping that your team is disciplined enough to maintain order. You can keep relying on willpower. Or you can engineer that order into the system itself.
It's the difference between I think this works and I can prove this works.
And in a world where software is running everything from banks to hospitals, I think just isn't good enough anymore.
We covered a lot today. The 7 guarantees, the cloud is truth, that zombie tombstone protection, which I'm definitely going to implement, and the immutable audit trails.
It's a comprehensive system. It's not for everyone. If you're a solo dev working on a weekend project, this is overkill. But if you are hitting the wall, this is the sledgehammer that breaks through it.
Here's a final thought for you to chew on as you go back to your own code bases. Most companies treat code failures as human mistakes. Someone didn't drink enough coffee. Someone was distracted. But Cosmos proves they are architectural choices.
That's the key.
So if you can mathematically guarantee the state of your work, if you have that 50-meter certainty, that immutable history, what risks would you be willing to take that you're currently too afraid to try? How much faster could you move if you weren't terrified of breaking things?
That's the question. When safety is guaranteed, velocity becomes infinite.
Think about that. Is your current order engineered, or are you just getting lucky? Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.